welcome to the Sheboygan County Historical Museum. My name is Bob Harker, the Executive Director of the Sheboygan County Historical Museum, and today is May 21st, 2011. It's another third Saturday program, and this one's all about wood products, all the wonderful things that have been produced in Sheboygan County over decades from the 1840s, 1850s. You're going to see a lot of those products today, and you're going to see a lot of things that were made by these craftsmen on their free time for their families at home. Might be furniture at home, it might be toys, it might be all kinds of things. So you're going to meet a lot of people today, and you're going to see a lot of things about wood. A special one is from the Wade House. Mark Knipping will be here talking about the sawmill, and that's really where it all started. Sheboygan County had a lot of forest, a lot of wood, and for the farmers to clear the land, needed sawmills, turn that into lumber, build houses and barns and all the things we needed in our villages.
Hello, my name is Lee Wilcox, and I'm an intern here at the Sheboygan County Historical Museum. I've been helping out with the teaser exhibits for the third Saturday program, and this month, focusing on wood and its many uses, I focused on the different industries that use it the most. Wood is used with the shipbuilding industry, furniture and chair companies, sports equipment, the dairy industry with cheese boxes and crates, with musical instruments such as phonographs, guitars, and violins, as well as different crates used for shipping and carrying.
Good morning. My name is Mark Knipping. I'm a resident of Sheboygan County, a native of Sheboygan County, and enjoyed a long career with the State Historical Society of Wisconsin. I'm retired now, but my last post was at the Wade House Historic Site out in Greenbush, and I was involved in the planning, the construction, and finally the operation of the Hurling sawmill out there. A very interesting project indeed. It's built on the Mullet River. It operated with a turbine, which is a kind of a horizontal water wheel. Used the water of the Mullet River in order to power a blade such as we have on the table here in front of me. The blade is 7 feet long. It weighs 23 pounds. Originally, these types of mills were driven at between 300 and 400 strokes per minute, although we used to run it at about 120 strokes per minute at the Wade House for safety's sake. It's a reciprocating saw, meaning it moves up and down. It was later replaced with a circular saw, which had a much faster cut, but it also generated a lot of sawdust. It was very wasteful of forest products, and this was considered more efficient at the time, even though it was a slower type of sawmill. With this sort of mill, you could cut about 1,000 linear feet of lumber in a day. With a large circular saw, you could saw between 30,000 and 40,000 feet per day. So this was a very early type of technology that after the Civil War, people didn't bother to build this type of a sawmill any longer. They went with the circular saws instead. Today we have the bandsaw technology, which has an even thinner blade, and therefore it's much more efficient as far as cutting lumber and creating less sawdust and less forest waste. The County Historical Society has provided this model of a reciprocating saw to indicate to museum visitors how these things, the action of the operation of it. I'm taking the place of the turbine. I'm turning a crank on the far side of the machine, and as you might be able to see, the blade here moves up and down. The log that's being sawed would move forward into the blade. The blade stays fixed in the center of the building, and it's the log that moves in those days, where nowadays the log remains fixed and it's the whole sawing mechanism that moves. So this kind of demonstrates in a very slow way how that 7-foot blade moved. I would have to turn this at 300 strokes a minute to show you what a muley saw really looks like, and I don't think I can do that, but this gives you an idea of the motion of the machine. It all comes from this little piece down here. This is called a pitman arm. And what it does is it takes the round, rotating motion of this wheel at the bottom and translates that into an up and down motion of the saw blade. It's the same thing that you have in your automobile. This would be called a crankshaft, the one in the center that drives the saw. In a car, the pistons move back and forth in a straight line, and that motion is translated into a circular motion that drives the wheels in the car. So it's an old technology updated for modern purposes.
Good morning again. Bob Harker, the Executive Director of the Sheboygan County Historical Museum. A real pleasure for me today to be able to bring some things from our home. Ruth and I, in our families and in our interest over the decades, have acquired a lot of things made out of wood, partly because they were interesting and partly because in Ruth's family there have been professional carpenters, finishing carpenters, cabinet carpenters that have produced products both as a job but also for the family over the decades as well. We're going to start here on the left-hand side with a lot of tools that the carpenters would have used. And you'll see so many of them were made out of wood. The plane, the hammers, the mallets, all kinds of things. I want to put this in front of the camera here just real quick too. A shovel, which you'll see from the use on it, we would all throw away. It's been patched, all kinds of things. But look at the handle up here. The handle's also made out of wood, and that was real typical of the early years. As you move along, you see a couple of really old things here. These, from the person I got them from, indicated they're probably from Civil War era, but even for riding the horses, the stirrups were made out of wood. They would use wood for just all kinds of things through our American history. Underneath the table is a barrel. Now it's a small barrel. They made all kinds of barrels, but in our history so many products were transported by barrel into and out of Sheboygan County that the art of barrel making and the businesses were very, very frequent and made thousands and thousands and thousands of barrels. Let's take a look up at the chest of tools here, and you'll see it's very specifically designed. The saws are on the top. The other kinds of tools are enclosed inside, and these would be taken to a job site. In one of the pictures there are gentlemen finishing off a floor. They have tools there that are scraping off planes that are scraping, leveling that floor. The other picture there, the family in the wintertime, when there probably was less work, they made this small playhouse. And this location is on New Jersey Avenue in the backyard. But when it was completed, it was skidded. You can see two skids underneath here to the Werner family home, which was on the northeast side. This was a tool chest that would be on site, but sometimes they needed tools and they carried back and forth. If we just go back here for a second and see this wood case here, and whatever they might need on a particular day, this is what they carried with them to the job and back home again. And we'll go over to the next section here, and this is a stool that came from the Young Shoe Company. And I talked with Henry this morning. He indicated this would be very likely in the supervisor area of the production, or the accounting area would be using stools like this. The next section includes a high chair that has been in Ruth's family for quite a long time. I'm going to pull this picture out right here, and this high chair has been used, we know for sure, at least 4 generations. And sometimes there were tough times, whether it be the Depression or World War II, when families really didn't have a whole lot, and they did the best they could with what they had. And when Ruth was very, very young, her dad made her a wagon. And that'll be the next item that you see on the table here. It seems a little bit disproportionate, but he used bits and pieces of lumber that were around, some pieces of metal, and the very small wheels on there are very small because that's all he could find that was available for that wagon. The red upholstered chair, we believe, was made commercially in the city. We made millions of pieces of furniture, and sometimes they made the smaller size for the kids as well. There were companies supporting other companies, and we're not sure who made the H.C. Prangy Company box, but it was a fold-away kind of box. They would deliver groceries to your home, and it's what they deliver in, and the bottom would pop, would hinge up, and then the box would go flat. The next set here, I'd like to show you, it has a series of chairs around it, but the real beauty of this table, it's a bird's eye maple finish on this, or that's the kind of wood that's being used, and these were common production items in the area as well. And all the chairs that you see around the table, the different ones, over different decades, were all ones like this were produced in Sheboygan County. Now, we don't know the exact origin of some of these chairs, but because the family lived here for virtually the whole length of the time that chairs have been made in Sheboygan County, it's very likely that these are Sheboygan County products. The next, we're looking at things that you'd find at home. You see all the spoons and potato mashers, all kinds of things here. Of particular note, this is something that in this day and age most likely would just be thrown away. And it was a silverware box, but it was used so long that it had holes in the ends where the knives had kind of worked their way through the box. And you see right there. A story on this one, this is made of cherry, and this is from my family. When I was very young, my dad brought in a sawmill. We lived on a farm in southwestern Wisconsin and cut down trees so we'd have some lumber. And this was done very typically in the rural areas. And this is cherry. This is one of 2 items that I had that we made something from the cherry wood. But to give you some idea of the size of the tree, there were pieces cut that were 3 inches thick, 12 inches wide, and 20 feet long. It was a huge cherry tree. But like I say, it was very common that the trees would be harvested. Some of the mixing bowls, again from Ruth's family, made out of wood as well. And kind of a fun thing here as well are these from Sheboygan Centennial, and the one wooden nickel kind of thing, and they had different things for a celebration locally, and that was used. Wood is so much a part of our culture that even in grade school, when Ruth was in grade school, they designed their yearbook, so to speak, and they used wood as the format for doing that. And so inside, it has all the different things that happened in school that year. We go back a few decades, and these are things in our household coming again through Ruth's family. And this chair, which is pretty fragile at this point, but really very special and special to her. And the picture in there is of her grandmother, and the little baby that she's holding is Ruth's dad. And she would use this chair to rock the babies as they were growing up. Plant stand beside it, and the piano stool also from that era. Let's walk around to this other side. We'll catch a chair from the collection there that was used in the fire departments locally, and is now part of our collection. The items here, again, come from the family, and it comes from a family that's very comfortable working with woods and working with odds and ends that are available. And this is a sand toy. Now, it's got a couple of parts missing, which are important, but if you can imagine putting sand into this part up here, and that's going to turn this part right there, and we have one character here, and there'd be a second one up here, and what they would be doing, they would be sawing wood. But this is a sand toy, but the base piece is just a crate, and a crate that could quite likely have been made in the area for one of the companies. The next two toys were used as a house and a barn, and again, they were just used from scrap lumber that was around and painted up to be toys for the kids when there really wasn't too much available. The last piece over here is something that I did back maybe 25 years ago. Also interested in wood, and I had classes in high school and things, but I've always been fascinated by the early wood construction of how they're held together with wood pegs. And I thought, well, if they could do that for real, I should be able to do that with a toy. So it is designed as a toy, but it is all put together with wood pegs like you see here through the whole barn. And this is the only one I made with wood pegs. The other ones after that, another 4 of them, I made with nails. And one of them in the pictures I have here was used by my sister in her kindergarten class. And if kids did really well during the day, they had a chance then to play with the barn towards the end of the day. And the last thing that we have on display here at the museum today from the family collection is this porch bench. And this bench, very likely made in Sheboygan, one of the companies here, but it was on my wife's house on the front porch for a very, very long time. And the picture indicates there that it was used when they took this picture. And this picture, this is Ruth's mother right here. And so it gives you some idea that this was back a very, very long time ago when this picture was taken. And it survived all those years in the outdoor elements. We have it now. We don't have it outside, but we do keep in a little bit more protected environment.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Kahns with the Sheboygan County Museum here this morning, and I am taking the place of the carpenter or cooper. What I've got here is something called a Schnitzelbank. Literally, it's German for shaving bench. What they would use this for, primarily to make barrel staves, cedar shingles, or what I'm doing here today is having the guests make tree nails or trunnels. Back before mass production, steel or metal nails were extremely valuable. So they would use wood nails made from trees, to construct a lot of buildings. Our Schuckert barn out here is actually constructed with trennels. Now, the process is quite simple. What I've got here is a shaving knife, and I'll just begin by tapering and rounding our tree nail just enough to get us started in our hole. Leaving the edges square so they will dig in and actually lock our beams together. Now over here we have an example of a post and beam construction using tree nails. we have a treadle here. This is actually an artifact. And that would get hammered using a wood mallet into the hole. And that's about as exciting as this gets here this morning.
These are pictures taken from at Whitesville near Upper Elkhart Lake. And these next ones here are from Kohler Company. They had a lot of fence boards made for around their horse farms. And this on here, that's at home. Large diameter logs. So
What are those items here?
that's a cant hook. That's a skidding tong. And that, what do you call it?
What do you use that for?
That's for carrying logs, small logs. This one's for turning logs. This is lifting or pulling logs out of woods.
Made different sizes, so
Huh?
they made different sizes too.
Oh yes, yes.
You know, and bigger one, I know, the heavy one.
Yeah, for small logs only, it was a short one.
You ever a log that you couldn't saw that was too big?
Huh?
Did you ever have a log that you couldn't get sawed through?
Well, you turn it.
Yeah, I know, I mean,
See, like this too, that's bigger than the
yeah, I know.
saw will cut, but you turn it down, then,
You got the top sawed.
yeah, see, that's the top saw.
The sawmill was a operation that my grandpa and my dad ran for many years, and as you see in the first picture there, they were set up in different areas to saw logs for the area farmers, and they would move from area to area and saw all the logs for the area farmers. They would all bring their logs to that area, and they were also had to help get the logs to the mill, up onto the mill, and they were responsible for shoveling the sawdust that would come off the mill and to take the lumber away from the mill. It was basically a three-man crew that was operating the mill, and they would move from place to place. And one of these places here is at Kohler Company. They did a lot of sawing for Kohler Company, and you can see rolling logs up onto the mill, and the tractor that powered the mill, it was belt driven, and the tractor powered the mill, and when they moved from location to location, the tractor also pulled the mill, since the mill was on rubber tire wheels, and they would just move from area to area. As weather permitting, they would saw pretty much every day, and now the mill is inside of a building, and as it sits today, and is no longer outside, and it's pretty much stationary, and it doesn't move on the road anymore. Although it could be if it was, if we wanted it to be.
This is Arlene Hoppy. It's my grandfather that started the actually beginning of Millersville Box Company way back about 1890. He bought it originally from Henry Miller. He's the guy that laid out the little village of Millersville, lots at that time. And then he ran the factory making cheese boxes until about 1913 when he died. And then my grandmother ran the business and sold it to my dad and my uncle. And then in 1917, they had a big fire there that the whole place burned down. And then they had to start over. They kind of sold shares and was incorporated into Millersville Manufacturing Company, but that didn't go over too good either. And then I think it was 1926, something like that, when it was incorporated into Millersville Box Company. And they made the cheese boxes. Where do I go from there? They had a lot of employees throughout the years, and they ran the business making cheese boxes till, what year was that, Ruben? When they went to pallets. I think it's in here. And then they made pallets after a while.
Who were the customers for the pallets?
Customers for pallets? I have no idea. And Millersville Box said they kept running until just this year it was sold to Lakeshore Pallet Company. After Lakeshore Pallet burned about a year ago, and they had the opportunity to sell it to Lakeshore Pallet, and so they took advantage of that.
This is the voice of Angie Hullen, one of the staff members at the Sheboygan County Historical Museum. At each of our third Saturday programs, we have numerous hands-on activities for guests to try out. One of the hands-on activities for today, since the topic is wood and how useful it was in industry and manufacturing, is assembling a chair from its various parts. There were numerous chair manufacturers in Sheboygan County and the city of Sheboygan throughout the decades, beginning in the late 19th century and up into the 20th century. And it can be a little bit of a frustrating endeavor trying to assemble the pieces of the various chairs. But when successful, you really get a feeling of accomplishment.
Hey, good morning. Jim Bratz. I'm a lifetime resident of Sheboygan, except for 4 years when I was in the service. I've been a diver most of my adult life, and in recent years I started modeling ship models. Sheboygan history, the shipbuilding industry started in the mid-1800s, and there were a lot of shipyards all the way from Goat Island, which is an area of the Penn Avenue Bridge, all the way to the mouth of the harbor. One of the most famous shipbuilding companies was Riebolt and Walters, and both Riebolt and Walters came from the Milwaukee shipyard at Wolf Davidson in Milwaukee, and started the Riebolt and Walters shipyard near the mouth of the Sheboygan River. It would be right around the bend of the river. Their shipbuilding company was right alongside of the Sheboygan life-saving station, and it was on the south side of the river. Most people know of the Coast Guard station, which is now on the north side of the river at the mouth, and the Coast Guard station started in 1915. The diorama that we're looking at is a portion of Revolt and Walter shipyard that is in the present site of Blue Harbor. And this is about a 300-foot section that I constructed that diorama out of. And the sailing schooner would be the schooner Sardinia, which was a popular Sheboygan schooner. And the little boat that's being constructed on the stocks is the tugboat Satisfaction. And these are vessels that the shipyard constructed most of the time, dredges, tugs, and that type of vessel. They did construct one passenger steamer, 275 feet long, that was a rather large ship for a small harbor like Sheboygan, and that entailed them digging southward into the bank several hundred feet to make a channel when they launched the Helena. The life-saving station and every one of the details on the diorama was made from plans that I obtained through various sources from both the museum here and from other shipyard companies around the Great Lakes.
Hi, my name is Gary Hess and I live in Madison. My grandfather, Frank J. Hess, was born in Kartasova Vysica, Bohemia, which is 80 miles south of Prague, in 1870. At age 14, he knew he wanted to be a cooper, and a cooper is a barrel maker. So my grandfather, Frank J. Hess, started to serve an apprenticeship in Pilsen, Bohemia, to become a journeyman cooper. After 3 years, he was a journeyman cooper, and he manufactured white oak barrels for a short time in Vienna before immigrating to America. At age 19, he did immigrate to America. He was a family of 6 siblings. However, my grandfather was the only sibling that immigrated to America. When he arrived in Chicago, he was age 19, where then he manufactured white oak barrels for breweries in Chicago and Prairie du Chien. Starting in 1904, Henry Fauerbach of the Fauerbach Brewery in Madison persuaded my grandfather, Frank J. Hess, to relocate from Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, to Madison, Wisconsin. And he did that, and that was the year 1904. For the next 62 years, my grandfather and his 4 sons operated the Frank J. Hess and Sons Cooperage for 62 years in Madison, manufacturing white oak beer kegs for breweries, and becoming Wisconsin's largest independent cooperage. Then in 1966, when the factory closed, it was the very last cooperage factory in America that manufactured white oak beer kegs for the breweries. This was the end of an American industry, and this was my grandfather's factory located in Madison on St. Corners. My cousin Jim Hess and I, we are both grandsons, tour the state giving free PowerPoint presentations of the Frank J. Hess and Sons cooperage to historical societies. And so here I am today explaining all this. So anybody have any questions?
If this isn't a beer barrel, what do you think it might have been?
Well, it's got a cork here. It's got a cork here. However, there's no bung bushing. Beer kegs have bung bushing. This is just a cork. The staves are very, very thin. It could be a homemade wine barrel. It could be for flour or grain, but it's definitely not a beer keg because it's the wrong size. Full barrels, full beer kegs hold 31 gallons of, the full barrel holds 31 gallons of beer, wine, or whiskey. The popular 1/2 barrel holds 15.5 gallons. The quarter barrel holds 7.5 gallons. And the 1/8 barrel holds 4 gallons. On the business card that I gave you, that is a wine barrel, and that is a pony keg, and that's much smaller. That's about half the size of a 1/8 barrel, and that holds 2 gallons. But they all have 4 hoops, and they have a bung bushing on the bottom here for filling the barrel at the breweries. On top, there's another bung bushing, and that bung bushing is missing here. This is not a beer keg, and the bung bushing on top is not there, but that's used in the taverns, for the tavern can install their beer tapper on the top bung bushing. Then they rotate the beer tapper a quarter of a turn, then they wrap the handle down, which forces the cork in the barrel, and then they pump air in a barrel so that the beer would not go flat. And finally, they would pump cold water into the tube, aluminum tube here, and the cold water would go around and around and around inside the coil into the barrel and come out the other side. So typically, there were anywhere from 1 dozen to 3 dozen of these 1/2 white oak beer kegs stored in the back rooms of all the taverns. Every barrel is full of beer, and every barrel has cold water in the cooling coils to keep the beer cold for all the customers when they walk in the door. So.
Kelvin Wheeler, and we have here a display of the tools that were made during World War II for the production of gun stocks. Now, I have an interest because these gun stocks, a lot of them were made in my hometown in Michigan, and they were made on tools that were produced by J.S. Richards and Company in Sheboygan Falls. And they produced gun stock making machines for most of the gun stocks that were manufactured during World War II and after that, and rather unique pieces of machinery for woodworking. The particular company that my hometown made about 3 million carbine stocks on J.S. Richardson tooling. And just about everybody else that was making them at the time made them on Richardson tooling also. And then Richardson, the furniture company, made a few pieces of gun stocks too also.
Welcome to this month's Collection Corner for the Third Saturday programs. We always do host a preservation table and often have information for people regarding the preservation of their own collectibles at home. This month is no different, and we've often been asked about taking care of furniture. And one of the most important distinctions for taking care of furniture is distinguishing between those things which are your collectible pieces of furniture and those items that you've bought to set your television on, have for sitting during the day, those types of items. And what I want to focus on today is really those items that are the collectible pieces of furniture, the antiques, the vintage pieces that you want to preserve for generations and generations. Not necessarily that television table that you bought at Walmart or Target that is made out of pressed wood with a laminate on it. So, my first question for you today is, what would you choose? You have choices for what you're going to use for your antique furniture to care for it. And I have some examples here to show everybody. What I have is I have 3 common things that we hear people talking about using on their furniture. The first one that we have is Renaissance wax. The next one, Old English polish. And the last one is just one of the many dust sprays or furniture polishes that are available out there today. So what would you choose? Think in your mind, which one of these would you pick? I'll tell you which one we would pick here at the museum and which one we use for our furniture pieces that we're caring for. We're using Renaissance wax. It's a microcrystalline wax polish. It doesn't need to be done very often. Why don't we use things like Old English or furniture polish? Well, let me give you an example. One of the things we find with Old English, I could take it and put it on this elephant, and his color would get real good, but that's because what we're essentially doing is putting moisture into the wood. As time goes by, that moisture evaporates out. And as we continue to do that, moisture in, moisture out, moisture in, moisture out. What happens is we actually set up a situation where the wood is going to crack. The joints can separate, and it'll actually do more damage than it will actually do good, even though it'll look really nice for a little while. So what about furniture polish? Because there's a ton of those out there, right? Well, the thing about furniture polish that is a little bit scary for those of us that are doing preservation work is the fact that we don't really know what's in it, okay? There's probably some kind of wax. Again, there's going to be some kind of moisture that we're not going to be real sure about. And over time, it can actually leave a residue on the finish of the furniture that we're using. So what I have here is actually, we have our one elephant. He hasn't really had anything done with him. And on the side of my rhinoceros, I've actually taken that microcrystalline wax, same type of wood, and waxed this side. You can see he's got a nice sheen. He's pretty smooth. You can really see the grain. That wax is going to help preserve his finish, but it's also going to make it a lot easier to dust this rhinoceros. It's going to make it a lot easier to make sure that his finish stays protected, and it's not something that we have to do regularly. And he'll keep this nice look for at least a year. This is something that often you do it kind of based on need. A regularly used piece, maybe once a year. Something that you don't use as often, even less frequently. These items are easy to do, preserves the finish, and it's something that you just as easily can do with a chair if you have such a piece that you need to take care of. Now this is a Phoenix chair that we use here in the collection, both using it for people to sit in, but also if people are interested in trying or seeing a demonstration of the waxing. We take this microcrystalline polish, put a little bit onto a nice cloth, soft cotton. You wipe it on, let it sit ever so briefly because it dries almost instantly. And then you come back with another cotton cloth and actually buff it off. And you'll get that kind of nice shine. You can tell if you were to touch it with your bare hand, it's got a nice protective finish on it. And that's something that you can do really with all of your wood furniture pieces, as opposed to treating them with things like Old English or even dust sprays that might leave residue on them. We're pleased to always help here with preservation questions that people have. And we have a number of handouts, including things like caring for wooden furniture. We'd be happy to help you. Feel free to give us a call here at the museum to get more information. Thanks.